everybody. Your Natural Dog with Angela Ardolino. And today my guest is Dr. Margo Roman, who is one of my favorite holistic veterinarians, which I read everything, follow everything that she does. She's been a holistic veterinarian for 45 years. She's also like the pioneer when it comes to microbiome, fecal transplant, restorative therapy. She has raised poodles who have perfect gut microbiomes and has helped so many dogs through fecal transplants from their dogs. So she is the authority when it comes to this. And what blew my mind is that she feeds her dogs a mostly vegetarian diet with just a small percentage of meat and organ and bone, which I'm like, okay, this is where we get the best fecal transplants from these dogs so it just made me go, I want to know more. So I think you guys are going to really enjoy this conversation. It's really going to let you know that food is food, and that, if it's organic, if it's grown the right way and it has the right mixture of nutrients, it really can make a difference. And a fecal transplant has just about every dog that came under my rescue that was suffering from something. It was one of the first things that I did after getting them off all unnecessary pharmaceutical drugs, was to rebuild that gut microbiome. So it is a game changer. If you've got a dog with a behavioral issue, a gut issue, allergies, you can't solve it, this is one of the ways you really can reset. It's very important where that fecal matter comes from, because there are companies that are using dogs that are being vaccinated or flea and tick, and they're not screening them or fed kibble. So it's very important. So we're going to talk all about this. So stay tuned.
So this is Bruce. Bruce is a 12-year-old pug, and he has had a lot of issues over his life, but for the past several years, he's had a really weird hacking, coughing issue that no one has been able to get under control. It's nothing infectious. It's just kind of a result of his little flat-faced breed and the respiratory issues they usually deal with. And I have finally found something that worked. It's called Breathe by Mycodog. It's a mushroom extract, and it has been incredible how quickly I saw results. Literally overnight, I saw a difference in the hacking and coughing, especially during the night he was doing it. So the Breathe tincture has really made a huge difference for him, not only with his breathing, but just overall supporting his immune system, since he has 2 other dogs in our household that go to daycare every day and bring home various germs and respiratory bugs themselves, and he has been totally healthy and clear of any issues since being on this tincture. So we're just super grateful that finally something is out there for these flat-faced breeds to breathe better and live a happier life.
And we're here with Dr. Margo Roman, and I can't tell you how long I have been waiting to do this. I can't even remember if I reached out to you earlier, but normally Carter reaches out for me and I'm like, I need you on. But you know what? I'm glad that it's happening now, because one of the biggest reasons I wanted you on is that I know that you are the original person, to the expert when it comes to fecal transplants, to microbiome fecal transplants therapy. And I learned about it through a company. I remember getting the fecal matter from your incredible dogs, and we'll talk about, how you raise them and feed them. It's everything that I strive to be. So you're a hero of mine. Thank you for doing what you're doing. And wow, when you can't figure out what's wrong with your dog, what a way to do a reset. But then that was, however many years ago. And then recently, I 3 of my dogs have all turned senior and going into geriatric age and having some issues. And I'm like, let's do a reset. Had their teeth cleaning. I'm like, let's go ahead and do a reset. And I went to that same company, got it again. And then I didn't have a good result, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And I started to ask some of other holistic veterinarians, and I heard that they weren't using your dog's fecal matter anymore. I heard that the demand was so high that they started to take bring on other dogs, and that a lot of these dogs were kibble fed. And that made my head explode.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that you say, yeah, and you agree with me, because there would be people that I brought it up and they'd go, no way. Or they'd be like, well, what's wrong with that? And I even remember speaking to the owner of the company and saying, hey, is this true? Thinking they're going to say, of course not. It's a rumor. Of course not. And it is true. And didn't even understand why I was concerned about it. So, when you know in your gut, and I know you know when something is right.
Well, that's why that gut-brain connection is unbelievable. I mean, I'll give you a little background about our dogs because I'm very proud of them. So I started raising standard poodles, not to raise standard poodles, but to try to improve the breed and get rid of medical issues. And so almost 30 years ago, I got a puppy and decided I'm trained now as a homeopath. I can do things without over-vaccination, without medication as much. I have all these tools. Let me raise this dog. So I raised her, and she, I decided after doing all this testing that she was really healthy. But she was started on a fresh diet, a raw diet and a fresh diet. And so when I bred her and she had her puppies, all I was doing was trying to improve the breed, trying to stop some of the medical issues. But because I was very holistic and we bought property that was virgin woods and we built our own house that was green and sustainable 42 years ago.
Wow.
All my furniture has no off-gassing. I've never used chemicals in my house. All these things that people are conscious about now, I was doing 40 years ago and was very, very odd. And people thought I was crazy to not want to put all this, lead paint, it didn't do lead paint, but different polyurethanes and flat, fabric retardants and all this stuff. I didn't want any of that on my children, let alone my dogs.
Right.
And so doing that, it was hard. It was hard to find products like that. So now, almost 7 generations now, we have 6 and 1 extra one now. These dogs have been raised in that environment, plus eating as much organic food as possible. And in looking at dog food for the last 30-something years or more, realizing what was in dog food, I could not tell my clients to feed dog food when all those chemicals and preservatives and dyes and the quality of the ingredients were so inferior that why would I put that into their we didn't know about microbiome. Why would I put that into their gut,
right,
which has to be balanced with more natural stuff? And so I started, not doing that. I stopped using dog food when my daughter was 1 year old, and now she's 41 and she was eating the dog food. And I looked at the label and I went, oh my God, why would I let my child eat that? And that's when I started making the whole food diet for my dogs and feeding raw diet and fresh food. And of course, that was totally frowned upon by the university.
Oh, I can imagine.
Oh, no, you have to feed a prescription. You have to feed a dog food. You can't feed dogs food. And it was like, of course you can. Their bodies.
Food is food.
Food is food. And you want this much diverse, different types of food. You just don't want, byproducts of an industry it's castaways that are negative. Years ago, 60 years ago, the food was so much better because it wasn't full of glyphosate. So if they were feeding corn in the dog food or soy in the dog food, it wasn't as bad as it is now because it's so ubiquitous through our food chain. And so these dogs are getting high levels of glyphosate. And your group probably knows that glyphosate is a microbiome destroyer. It kills the gut flora. So every time you feed your animal, what are you doing? Every time you give your dog a flea product, you're killing the microbiome. If it's a toxic chemical flea thing, every time you give your dog heartworm, you're killing the microbiome. So it's the chemicals you put in your house. It's the floor things that you wash. It's the fabric, is the things that increase the odor in the house that are not essential oils, that these things, they are changing something. Fragrances.
It should just be called toxic chemicals and not fragrances.
Right.
What people don't understand is that when something's titled a fragrance, it's a proprietary formula of a whole bunch of chemicals that make a scent, and they don't have to tell you what it is.
Which is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And so people have to go back to basic stuff and really look at, I can use, if I want to have cinnamon in the house and have things that are fragrant, that are some nice smelling lemon peels or whatever. They don't have to go buy, Febreze and all these other chemicals. They're now trying to be more normal, but I don't think they are at all. They can't be so intense like that, especially like these laundry, long, you can smell your laundry for 6 weeks, with the same smell. What are they putting in there? And then these animals, their noses are so sensitive, and you're giving them that kind of, exposure. But back to the microbiome. So I've protected it for 6 generations, and they only had organic food. We have not used flea products. We don't have chlorine or fluoride in our water. We have no well, and we have it screened and make sure that it's healthy. I use reverse osmosis with hydrogen water to make their food. I make their food. It's very, very time consuming. I would love somebody to come out with my food. If anybody wants to do it, you want to come out with my food. But it's a lot.
No, it makes no sense. To me, you are the authority. People are asking for your dog's poop to make their dogs better. So obviously what you're doing makes a difference. Your dog's poop is saving other dogs' lives. So
it is. So
why isn't it?
But it's hard. I'll tell you, my husband, now I have 8 dogs, and he is like overwhelmed with too many dogs in my house. My house is a dog house now. I mean, the dogs are all they're in the out on back hall because they'd be all coming all over here. But they are, they have run of the house, and we have 7 acres, and I love each one of them, and each one I couldn't part with one or the other. But they are, and each one has a little bit different personality, and they're outgoing and they're loving and they love everybody. And we give our fecal transplants to dogs that are nervous and anxious and insecure and aggressive. And they start acting like nice, fun poodles. Wow. And it's fun. It's fun. I had a puppy, and I came in like 2 months ago, and these 2 puppies came in. One was a pit bull mix, and the other one was a shepherd who looked like was mixed with a corgi. So it was a shepherd. As a puppy, probably looked like a shepherd. And I didn't remember either one of these puppies. And they came in, and they both looked at me in my eyes, just like my dogs. They were like wanting to be in my face, And
oh my God.
When I talked to the woman, I said, gosh, this one looks just like Apple's eyes. And this one looks like Papaya's eyes. And I didn't remember them at all. And she gave me the backstory. She said these 2 puppies were considered very risky personality-wise because they had been abused. And we gave them a fecal transplant right from the beginning. And they were, having a pit bull act like a poodle is pretty good, I think.
I love it.
And this German shepherd was also the same thing, like, just wanting to be maybe they would have turned out that way anyway.
Right.
But she said they were both traumatized as puppies, and they were going to be special needs. Wow. And they were both happy, happy dogs. And we gave them poop right from the beginning. Because if you can take 6 generations that have and pass it down with natural birth, with no C-sections, with no antibiotics, with no flea products, and no NSAIDs, and pass that down,
and with their mother for the appropriate time, and breastfeeding from their mother from the appropriate time, because
they breastfed for 12 weeks.
I love
who
that.
does that? They 5 weeks or 3 weeks they're off.
And listeners, remember, that's when an endocannabinoid or deficiency could start, is because that's when you're getting your first endocannabinoids from your mother's breast milk. So if they're not breastfed for the right amount of time or not at all, your puppy literally has an endocannabinoid deficiency. So there you go.
Sierra, I'm learning from you too.
Yeah.
So I told them all, you have to breastfeed till 12 weeks. And of course they're like, oh no. I mean, they'd be hanging from there, but they would at least get 1 meal a day from the mother. And I sometimes have to hold her and give her treats and stuff because they start getting a little bit, chewing on her, kind of thing. But I wanted them, like in the wild, they do that. That's how they get it in the wild. They don't just at 5 weeks are abandoned, from their mother and they take over themselves. They're not ducks, they're dogs,
So do you think that has something to do with that gut brain access?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, then you're talking about now with family. I can't treat people, but the same thing. Kids are on antibiotics as babies, and then they're eating, genetically modified corn chips, and they're destroying their microbiome. And you wonder why there's so much mental health problems in schools.
And they're hugging on their dogs that have toxic flea and tick poison
So
coming out of their pores
from the dogs. And nature that's why you have a dog, is to ground you into nature, right? And to love them. And if your dog
improve your gut microbiome.
What, pardon?
And doesn't having pets in the home
increases your gut microbiome. If your dog doesn't have a good microbiome, your dog may be making it worse for you.
Wow.
Instead of making it better. If your dog's on flea products and you're petting your dog and it's on Simparica trio and it's killing its microbiome and it's killing, when you touch it, what is it doing to you? Well, I wouldn't I wouldn't do any of that stuff to my animals. I mean, to me, that's setting them up for immune problems.
And so you agree with me? Kibble, fecal transplant, a microbiome fecal transplant with kibble-fed dogs completely defeats the purpose of doing a microbiome fecal transplant.
I agree with that. And we're feeding live food, fresh food, organic food.
What are you feeding? Let's talk about what you are feeding, because I love that too. I love that you were addressing, because again, you're ahead of your time. You're addressing that there is a huge problem with us consuming animals. And I agree with that also. And it's only getting worse. I feel now everybody has a food brand that's coming out, whether it's freeze dried or what. I mean, I feel like I'm bombarded.
We have to, can dogs be plant-based? Totally. And I think they can, but my dogs aren't 100% plant-based. They are 92% plant-based.
So explain that to us.
Okay. So, because my dogs have a diverse microbiome, there are probably microbes in there that are really good, that are used to eating putrefied meat. Okay. And that's what happens when the meat goes in there. It putrefies and these microbes eat it. Right. So my dog, the food that I make is all plant-based. And I use as much fresh stuff as I can. So the vegetables.
And everything's organic.
Everything's organic. So
I don't think anybody understands the importance of that.
Well, yeah. So, it's hard to find organic papaya that's non-GMO. So there's papayas now, and I use papaya. I use like 3 papaya for the papain and some of the digestive enzymes. So that's the only thing that I know is not to find totally organic, non-GMO papaya is the only thing that I feel like I'm missing. But I can't. They don't make papaya anymore. That is, they make it organic, but they've already genetically modified the papaya slightly. So that's the only thing that I'm using. But I get organic. I do pineapple, papaya, blueberries, sometimes raspberries, kiwi, banana, apples, pears. Let's see what else, but fruits that I put in there. But a lot of blueberries, a lot of fresh ones when it's in season. Always fresh a little bit, but then frozen if it's out off season and I can't.
And again, organic blueberries, folks, because blueberries are one of the dirty dozen. Those of you follow EWG.org, they put a wonderful list out calling the dirty dozen of the worst pesticide riddled fruits and vegetables. And then they tell you which ones are okay. And I bet papaya is one of the ones that's okay because of its thick skin is pretty much protecting it.
If you have, because they're not using glyphosate on them in the organic, or would they be using that to get rid of weeds? I don't know. I don't know how they grow, but I only buy the organic ones. But to know, like the vegetables that I use beets, carrots, Jerusalem artichokes, which are very high in prebiotics. They get asparagus, broccolini, broccoli, kale, what else? Let's see what else. I have pictures. I take pictures every time I make my dog food, so I know exactly what is in each one of the batches. And then I'm missing a bunch more vegetables. So parsley and cilantro, because that's 2 of my puppies' names are parsley and cilantro. And
is this a recipe that we could follow, that we can get?
Well, I have the recipe. I haven't really shared it with everybody. I mean, it's in big bunches, of things. It's so many pounds of this and that. I really, if there's somebody out there who wants to start producing this dog food in the quality, I mean, it's going to be expensive because it's expensive for me to buy the stuff, because I'd love to find, if you know anybody and anybody out there, we can get this stuff in bulk and have it produced in different places, and have it as a predominant plant-based.
Well, it is possible because it just took me 2 years to put out a treat, and I don't do food or treats. So I wanted to partner with somebody who was creating an awesome, yummy treat that didn't have any crap in it. And it took me 2 years to find people.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's because
I've been
people
giving this
don't.
away to clients and stuff, but I really would think it would be an expensive thing because everything in there is organic, right?
Right.
But if people
But
wanted
it's
to
still
do it,
affordable. My
still,
treats are
yeah,
still going to be affordable. And
right,
there are
right. And I
people
agree. And
like you and
it's
me.
worth it. It's worth it
We
because
want that. I don't
right,
care that I want to pay now and not later. So I think
exactly.
there's enough of us out there to say,
Exactly.
you're no
And so
longer the only one, Margo. You're not the only one.
well, I think we can do it. Anyone out there that wants to get in touch with me and is interested, I'm happy to talk to them. So, and then we cook butternut squash and sweet potato, mostly butternut squash. So I usually have a pot that's, this big of butternut squash. I cook up 38 quarts of quinoa.
Wow.
And I cut up about 38 quarts of beans. And so the beans, I get all organic beans, whether it be black beans, azuca, garbanzo beans, different kind of white beans and stuff like that, different colors. I try to do all different colors. And I soak them for 48 hours with kombu and asafoetida, which is a Ayurvedic garlic. It smells terrible,
awesome,
but it's supposed to help prevent flatulence and help it get rid of the lectins. So try to get rid of the lectins for 48 hours.
What is it called again?
Asafetida, asafoetida.
Okay.
So it's a substance that you add to beans to help make them break down better. And I put that in there. I soak it for 2 days in alkaline water that we have a reverse osmosis alkaline, which comes out every 2 gallons at a time, and so I have to keep filling up. It takes me all day to collect water. And then we soak those, and then I change the water, and then I soak them again, and then I cook them for 5-6 hours. And I do that to the lentils too as well. So there's a whole pot of lentils, whole pot of beans, whole pot of quinoa, and then all these vegetables. And we take 1 cup of this, 1 cup of this, 2 cups of that, 1 cup of this, 1 cup of that. And then we put that all into a Cuisinart. And the vegetables have all been Cuisinart, so they're in just a bulk thing. And the fruits are also, it's just 1 cup, 1 cup, 1 cup, 2 cups, 1 cup. And then we put in a bunch of nutraceuticals to add extra. I put Nupro, which has kelp and has other vitamins. I use taurine. I do put Carlson's fish oil. So I do put fish oil for some of the omega-3s. They get a lot of hemp oil. So they get hemp oil, fish oil. It's probably twice.
Like the fish oil, how do you know? I mean, I guess you've researched the brand or whatever. How do you keep the fish oil from going rancid?
Naturopath, they check the batches all the time for heavy metals. So it's expensive, but same thing. You are what you eat. I'm not going to give my animals something.
Right.
I'm trying to, besides take care of them, whatever they're passing through and creating this beautiful substance that we can feed other animals. I want it to be the best of the best if I can do it. So right. It's worth it to do it. And so I give them the Carlson's fish oil. They get from Compassion Circle, which is a vegetarian-based additives. They get their yeast, the nutritional yeast. And then I use, I'm trying to more digestive enzymes, even though I'm using the papain and the bromelain from the pineapple. I add on like similar Prozyme, and then there's other ones that I use that are natural digestive enzymes. So that goes in there. And let's see what else I should have my picture up so I prompt myself. But then we mix that all together, and then at the end, it's all put in glass trays because I don't want to store it in plastic. So everything's stored in glass, and half of it is refrigerated, half of it's frozen. So the first week and a half is all fresh, and then the second week and a half has been frozen. And then when I assemble it, I put turmeric, I put these perfect aminos, which is made from beans, and I put in turmeric and ground eggshells. So we give, especially the younger dogs, get an egg, and then we add the eggshell back in it. So it's Vital Farm eggs, which the animals are respected, and they're not just in a cat factory farm. And the eggs are twice as expensive. But again, the energy from those eggs is going into my microbiome.
Yep.
So I want good karma energy. I don't want poor chickens that suffered their whole lives.
I feed my chickens not only hemp seeds, but actual hemp flour also.
Oh, good.
Get more PEA in the egg yolks.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's a great idea. I don't know if they do that from that company, from Vital Farms, but the more, whatever they're coming out of their body is helping you, right?
Right.
You're making them healthier. And at the same time, whatever is coming out, the same thing I feel about the microbiome. And so then, and then the other, then we mix it up with the meat that I use. So we're talking about now what I put in. So most of my,
that's kind of like your base that you made.
Base. So if I used to go through 4 freezers of frozen venison for 4 dogs, right, for the year. Now I go through 1 freezer that's pretty big for 8 dogs. So I went and for 4 dogs, so I basically am feeding about 1/8 to less than 1/8 of the amount of animal protein. Wow. So I take, what I'll do is that we get the bones and everything so that they're throwing away, and we cut off the meat, so each one is probably getting about a tablespoon of meat. They get a little bit of organic goat yogurt or cottage cheese. And then I put 1 egg into the whole thing, and then the eggshells go in. And then, so they're getting animal protein. So they're not vegan,
right.
I would love for them to be, but I feel like what I'm raising 8 dogs on, I would be feeding 1/2 to a regular dog,
right.
About what I would feed. So that, not that I want people to have 8 dogs and feed that many dogs. I don't think you should have that many animals, because I'm doing this because I feel like each one of these animals is making a difference in other animals' lives. And I can give you a case that I'm sent to publication that I think totally can give you the understanding why this is so valuable. And if you want me to tell that case, so we're going to stay with the diet, but I'm with the plant-based. But the plant-based diet we have to do this. This is not an option anymore. Any of you that live in California and are dealing with the fires, any of you that are living in Florida dealing with the hurricanes, any of you that are living with these tornadoes in the Midwest and in the South, in Texas and stuff, it's bad. Climate change is real. And if you don't believe in it, I'm sorry.
And what a lot of people don't know is that agriculture is the biggest contributor.
Agriculture causes more climate change.
But we don't talk about that. We talk about the cars, and we talk about everything else. And
talk about what you eat.
Right.
But to raise, I think I've given these statistics. You probably heard me. But to raise 1 70-pound dog, and this is from Susan and Richard Pitcairn's lectures. But to raise 1 70-pound dog for 11 years, what is the impact on our earth for their meat only? Their meat only. It's 8 million gallons of water. This is 1 dog.
Wow.
180 tons of grain, 365,000 miles worth of petroleum to move the animals to the feedlot, but back and forth, their feed to them, back to the slaughterhouses, all of that, right? 5.5 acres of forest or rainforest that has to be cut down to put genetically modified corn, soy, and wheat, which is destroying the biodiversity of the soil, killing the biodiversity of the soil by putting this genetically modified stuff.
And killing their microbiome and our microbiome and everybody's microbiome who eats the shit that's grown.
Totally.
So
and then and then it goes on. So then it's the pounds and the tons of methane, feces, and animal excretion that is all filled with glyphosate. I don't remember those tons. But the worst part for me as a veterinarian is I'm going to tell that new client with that beautiful puppy, golden retriever puppy, to feed a meat-based diet and kill 8,127 animals for 1 dog. Wow. It's not ethical. It's not sustainable. It's cruel, because none of those animals, I will guarantee any veterinarian says you can't do it. If they can tell me that dog ate a chicken that was 11 weeks old that wanted to die, or that steer that was a year old wanted to die, then I don't think they understand animals, because they do not want to die at a baby like that. So, and they're giving their life up for your dog to eat meat. I just don't feel that is the purpose that we should be, putting these animals in that position. So
I agree with you.
And I think it's hard because people say, well, dogs are carnivores. Well, my dogs, the first 3 generations were meat-based. The last now 4 generations are plant-based.
And have we forgotten about evolution? Have we forgot that everybody evolves, including our dogs, and whatever they were, we say that they should be eating what their ancestors were eating. Well, we can't even access what that was
Oh,
back
absolutely. They
then.
don't have access to their ancestors.
And have you seen, and this might be Dr. Pitcairn also, I think it is, where they talked about, our digestive enzymes and how dogs weren't producing amylase in their saliva, and now they are, which is basically proving that they are evolving and that they can digest these things, because that was the argument all the time that I was given is, oh, they don't produce the same digestive enzyme as we do, so they can't break down vegetables and they can't eat them. And that's bullshit. That's not the truth.
Well, I think that, see, I puree everything. So I'm not challenging them to start breaking it down.
Right.
If you give your dog a carrot, they're going to have carrot coming up.
Exactly.
You're going to see the carrot going in the same way. It's just going to be a little bit different, So I puree everything in a Cuisinart. So the surface area is pretty high, so they can, the microbes can wrap themselves around these fibers and things like that and start to, I'm hoping, multiply. But, we have such phenomenal results with our poop, and
so
I
you were proving that for the past 4 litters of puppies,
right,
that you were proving that you can feed your dogs a lot less animal protein and
Absolutely.
have them thrive. And what have you seen? Are your dogs not sick? Do you have no allergies, no issues, no disease, no problem?
We're using our dogs, and we've really been doing this the last few years. I had a case just recently, and this is just amazing, and we're going to really expand on it. But it was a Cocker Spaniel with chronic ears, and so many of you guys have dogs have chronic ear problems. And we always use medical ozone. Ozone has to get rid of that biofilm. It's a critical part of the success of why my microbiome works so well, is that we use ozone to remove the biofilm. Instead of putting them on antibiotics to think that we're killing the microbiome, we use ozone, and ozone will kill the microbiome. Immediately it releases oxygen, which feeds the cells and feeds the stem cells in the crypts of the colon when you're doing it rectally. So you're stimulating the healthy new cells to start to do something, right? And then we put the fecal in, and we give them nutraceuticals to balance out the gut at the same time. So we give him, Zachary Bush's product, Gut Ion. Are you familiar with that? Excellent product.
Oh, I love
Gut Ion. We do colostrum, because they found that the sugar in the first mother's milk doesn't feed the baby, but actually feeds the microbes. Awesome. So we're giving them that. We're giving them digestive enzymes. I use RX vitamins, Nutrigest, and then we use a standard process or some type of intestinal glandular. So I'm feeding those things that the gut has been weakened, and you could give them fresh tripe or freeze-dried tripe or tripe, but trying to feed the gut so that things in there will mesh better. And I'll tell you, it's so true. But this Cocker Spaniel that we did, where now the microbiome of the skin is so valuable, and you keep scrubbing it off with all these chemicals and chlorhexidine, and you're just killing it off, right? So what we do is give the dog, we take our dog's hair and we make it into a sponge, and we have been selling my dog's microbiome water. So my dogs in 6 generations, I have a new puppy, so I can't say how long, but have never had one bit of tartar, one bit of plaque, one gingival loss, one lost tooth, I have never brushed my cat's or dog's teeth. They have never had any inflammation in their mouth. And in studying with biological dentists, because biological dentists use a lot of ozone in their practices, it is the biofilm that creates the tartar and the plaque. And if the tartar and the plaque is being formed in the mouth by the biofilm that's so disrupted, if we can give them my dog's biofilm water and replace that, it's like my dogs came over and shared your dog's water.
Right.
I do not want my dogs drinking out of someone else's dog's water bowl, because they're all filled with tartar and crap in their mouth. So we're trying to do the reverse. And so we've had success. So what I'm doing is taking my dogs groom each other and they lick their faces. So they're sharing their microbiome, but I'm not going to let them lick your dog's face and clean your dog's ears. But we're doing that, putting that microbiome into the ears, using it on the skin. I had a dog yesterday who has been bald on the tail for over a year, and just 6 weeks later has most of the hair back all over the place.
Wow.
And, we're going to do the sponge. She hadn't started with the sponging of this because I want to clear up everything on this dog, but it's been on multiple antibiotics, multiple Apoquil, multiple Cytopoint, multiple. And, we just take it off everything and just try to reboot from the inside. And it's beautiful. It's just,
that's what I do too. That's what I when I first started this journey, I reached out to everybody I knew. I'm like, look, you've got any dogs, any cases, you think you've tried everything. And that's what I would, same thing. They'd be seniors, geriatric, having grandma seizures, cancer, couldn't walk, you name it. And all I would do is remove them off all of that, feed them a fresh, natural diet and raw most of the time. I found a lot of my old dogs, I would have to go into a gently cooked, but I'm not as advanced in all the digestive enzymes. I actually didn't even get into digestive enzymes until they were getting into, 17, 18 years old, and then they needed support. But that's what I want people to understand that are listening, is that it's really never too late. You really can turn a dog's life around completely.
We give old dogs a fecal transplant, and they're out playing ball the next day like a puppy. People are going, my dog hasn't done that. Great case was Baxter, who he just taught me so much. He was such an amazing guy. But he came to me at almost 14. He had a liver cancer and he couldn't walk. And they basically said, he's a part shepherd and lab, it's time, put him down. So they came in and I said, let's try acupuncture. Let's do ozone and everything else. And he rallied and he was getting up and walking around. And then all of a sudden he had an intestinal bleed from the, from his tumor, and bled quite badly. And he went to the emergency clinic and they said, it's time. You got to put him down. There's nothing else you can do. His liver enzymes are 5,000. He's dying. You got to do it. So they called me. I said, well, let's try. And we did ozone. We did intraperitoneal ozone. I have a hyperbaric chamber. We did hyperbaric chamber. We gave him a fecal transplant. We put him down at 16 and a half. But the interesting part of this case was he had gone through this lead out and everything else. And I wanted to give him a fecal transplant. And I gave him a fecal transplant from my dogs when they were in heat. It happened to be the live ones were in heat. And next day he was humping his bed, and he hadn't humped his bed since he was 5.
Wow.
Now, isn't that cool? I thought that was, and we see that now. We use the in heat ones for dogs that are incontinent, that have been spayed and neutered so young. You need the hormonal encouragement that is missing in all of these dogs that got neutered and spayed very early. And even the ones that got spayed and neutered later, it's like being in menopause when you're 9 weeks old.
I can't believe you're saying this. I feel like I'm talking to, this is like going to be my favorite interview ever, because you're literally all the crazy thoughts that have come through my mind. You're now saying it, because I went through menopause and I'm going, is this what they're going through as puppies? And they get no support.
Right. And if their gut can't communicate, each of these parts of our bodies evolved over, a million years. I mean, all these pieces. And if you've ever seen that chart, it was actually in the bathroom of Richard Pitcairn. And I was at his house for a meeting on the plant-based diet. And it's called The Chronological History of the Earth. And it shows from the bottom, 4,000 million years ago, at the top is the Earth, and how all the different Triassic and Jurassic and all these different stages, and then all the craters that happen. So it's this huge chart, right? And then at the far right, they have where the mammals came in. So they came at a certain level, and then they went up, and then the plants were here, and the invertebrates and the amphibians and all that kind of stuff. And I was I was reading this stuff. And I'm like, well, this is phenomenal. And at the bottom was a little brown square that went straight up to the top. And I was like, what is that? And it's the microbiome. Awesome. So the microbiome has been here for 4,000 million years. And what have we been trying to do it in the last 100 years? Kill it.
Kill it.
Kill it. Let's kill it. Let's kill it. It's the formation of every relationship. And that's one of the things I want to talk to you about is cannabis. Cannabis is a very old plant. There's a lot of very old plants, and they have always communicated. They're closer to this part here, right? So if those can be helping balance things more efficiently by having the relationship that they had with these species coming up, great. Let's let them communicate. Let's let them, oh yeah, I remember you. We used to do this together and this together, sort of like this meshing that happens. And that's why, I keep thinking that animals should be really getting a whole plant. They should be getting crushed, juicing or crushing the juices. But, it's probably not that tasty. But that might be the way to really get them how they actually ate them in the wild. They didn't make.
Unless they ate the flowers. They could have eaten the flowers. Right. And they could have known, kind of like with fungi also, when exactly eat that flower to get whatever desired effect.
That's the base. Yeah, the mushrooms and stuff. But the same thing with mushrooms. Mushrooms are ancient. They're ancient. And so all the different components of the mushroom, and as they take them apart and they realize all the pieces of the mushroom that are there and why, these have been around for animals to eat forever.
And you know about the stoned ape theory, right?
The stoned date.
Ape. No. Stoned ape theory.
No.
So stoned ape theory is in our evolution, there's a 200-year period where we advanced very fast and hard. And the theory is that they found psilocybin and took psilocybin, and that expanded their mind.
Their brains. Oh, wow.
So
the mushrooms, I have not done any of that in dogs using the psychedelic mushrooms at all, with animals. But I think that if I can get a dog who is mentally challenged and has traumatic and give them a healthy microbiome from dogs that are like, let's play, let's and do that. That seems like, pretty cool.
It does. I think so too. I think anybody who is having any issue that they have not been able to address, having a microbiome fecal transplant is the way to go. But we need to make sure that they're getting it from the proper place. So I want people to understand.
We have a new product that we're just marketing, and we are now freeze drying ours at location.
Awesome.
So it's done right in the same moment.
So before we tell them where to get it, I want people to understand that anything that is found that works in nature, and then it proves that it works, what happens next is you're going to have companies coming out producing it like crazy, and it'll become more available. And most of those products are not the correct products. So it's very important that if you want the results from a true microbiome fecal transplant, that you're getting it from someone like Dr. Roman, whether it's from her dogs and they carry her dog's fecal transplants, that you want to make sure it's hers. You want to make sure there's companies now that have kibble-fed dogs, which completely defeats the purpose, or the company grows and they got to literally take dogs' poop. So they are letting any dogs in, and they don't know if those dogs are getting flea and tick, exposed to pesticides. So it's very important that if you're doing this, that you either go with Dr. Margo Roman or you do your research and ask the right questions. So now let's tell them where they can get from your dogs.
Our dogs. And we are only right now selling our frozen to veterinarians or referrals from veterinarians. We have a product that we're just starting, and we're calling it ARF. It was going to be, it was post-heartworm abdominal restorative therapy. But it was for after you give a heartworm pill, because the heartworm kills the microbiome. But then we thought people are going to think you only have to have heartworm to give it. But the acronym came out to be FART, and we thought that was cute. Now we made it abdominal restorative formula, and that is going to be ARF. And it's going to be freeze-dried capsules that people can take after the heartworm. If they've done flea stuff and they want to start to restore and get that going. And so we're having a whole, and we have control over how it's made because it's made by us. The other company that's making it only using us is Legacy Biome, and they're based out of Canada, and they are selling to the public as well as the vet. So they're doing we're only trying at this point to sell to veterinarians or veterinary referrals. And we also, when the veterinarians wanted, we have it in a slurry already made up for the fecal transplant. And then we're coming out with a powder that they can reconstitute and do it with ours only too as well. But
so is it like they take it for a period of time, or is it a therapy they go into the vet office, or either?
Well, the oral, they take it home, and then we're not giving orally.
For like 30 days?
I usually do 2 weeks, or it depends on the case. If we're doing a rectal fecal transplant, I usually give them 2 weeks right at the time of the fecal transplant, either do 1 or 2 days before, or start at the same time and keep going for 2 weeks. And we do some testing as well. We check them for what I call Plechner syndrome. A lot of dogs have this immune endocrine imbalance where their IgAs are really low. And if they have that low IgA, they may need multiple rectal fecal transplants and multiple oral microbiome. And I have several dogs in my practice that each of these 2 owners that I'm thinking of spent $40,000 before they came to me. Each one spent 40 grand. And they both didn't have any more money. One had insurance, one didn't have insurance, and they both didn't have any, funds left to do it. And we did the fecal transplant, screened them for Plechner, and it's been almost 5 years. And I think they've all been to the ER like one time in 5 years, except they were there every other week, with hemorrhagic gastritis. But they have to have poop every day. So they have a piece of poop every day, and it just keeps them, their immune system is just not able to take it on and keep it on. But those are the rare ones.
Right.
But we've been able to show, they are thrilled. Their dogs are happy. They're playful. They're doing well. And they didn't have to spend, $20,000 a year at the veterinary clinics.
Amazing. We're out of time. I know you have to go. Thank you so much. This is going to go down as one of my favorite interviews.
I think it's important for everyone out there who cares about their animals to really look at the whole picture. Look at our earth.
Yeah.
What can we do to make it a healthier place? Because if the earth's not healthy, you're not going to be healthy, and the dog's not going to be healthy, and your kids are going to never have a dog that's healthy. So let's make this earth healthier and make these animals healthier, and try to share knowledge and not be like, oh, if it's a pharmaceutical, we can't tell you how to, what. And you listen to the pharmaceutical, commercials, and you're like, why would I take that? I can get lymphoma, I can get these diseases that can kill me.
Because they've normalized it. It's being shot in front of your face to the point where you're like, oh, I guess it's normal for me to take a pill and shit my pants. It's ridiculous. It's crazy.
But the microbiome is the new cutting edge of medicine. And it's great to be exploring new ways of helping people get healthier and animals get healthier. I only do animals. I do not do people. And so, but we can learn from our dogs, and they are amazing teachers. So if you start doing stuff for your dog and they get better, think about it. How can I help my family? My dog is part of my family, and they're trying to help me with unconditional love and showing me this is how I'm getting better. Maybe you guys should look at this too, right? So
it does. It makes sense. Happened to me the other way around. I did it for myself because I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis and was like, whoa, cannabis helped me, saved me. And then I was like, wait a minute, everything that I'm doing wrong on me, I'm probably doing wrong for my dogs too. And that is totally the case, except it's so much worse, guys, for our pets. So much more deception, and it's most of the information. It's funny because I have a brand, but always look at where you're getting your information. If it's coming from a brand, they're telling you about their product, not about every way that you can help your dog. So always keep that in mind. Thank you so much for being an advocate and a pioneer and not giving up. You're an inspiration to me not to give up.
We need people to stand up and talk to their vets. We need people to go to veterinary boards and veterinary organizations and say, we love our animals. We want to have choices. We want choices to take care of them the way we want to. And, to be directed that you have to use an antibiotic, or you have to have this surgery, or you have to have euthanize your dog, to me, is not freedom of decision. Choice. As long as you're not causing harm to them, why can't you have an opportunity to help them? And that's always been my motto.
Right. We're not even given the holistic choice. We're only given the conventional choice. And there's always choices. And every time that I've gone the holistic choice, I've always gotten better results than the conventional choice. And it works over and over again.
And veterinarians are realizing that. Veterinarians are burnt out.
I love my profession.
I love my profession. I want to It has been wonderful, and being able to do this for 45 years. I love it, but I feel frustrated that I can't get new veterinarians and older veterinarians just to say, try this. Why not? What are you so afraid of that you may find another tool that you didn't have 10 years ago? So why not try something and get your clients' animals better and your own pets better? So it's happening when they do it and they go, oh my God, how did I not think about nature as being part of the healing process? I mean,
Right.
let's let nature heal nature, right? So
Exactly. Thank you. You're a
you're welcome.
blessing.
Take care. Thanks.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.